Hi, Skyler. How are you?
James, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's nice to finally put a name to a face outside of
Yeah,
a headshot.
yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me. Let me get this background thing off here so it's not all blurry.
Yeah, it's kind of I've never seen that before. I'm not really on Zoom very often.
We've done lived off of Zoom for like 3 years, so I've kind of got
Hmm.
some of this stuff figured out.
Also, are you okay if I record this?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, just so you didn't see like an icon or something pop up.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I'm James, by the way. So I'm a sophomore at West Virginia University, and I'm in sport management as well. Are you okay if I give you a little briefing of kind of what we're
Yeah,
doing?
absolutely.
I want to catch you up to speed so you're not just
Yeah,
like all over the place. So yeah, this past year we created the Sport Management Alumni Network, which we felt with COVID, actually you just brought up, and just years in the past that there's been a disconnect with alumni, especially in the sport management program. Um, and since it's such a successful program, we're like, why are we not reaching out? Like, there's so many great people we want to get in contact with, inspire so many students that we helped create this. And now we're kind of rolling with the punches. We've created social medias, and we just created this podcast type of thing that you and I are doing, just sitting down and
yeah,
talking. Um, but it goes a long way, and I think it's nice. I want the students to kind of hear people that were in their shoes, and that's really ultimately what we're kind of trying to do.
absolutely. I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, this is really just a conversation. I didn't want to send you any questions or anything to like prep you, but
Yeah.
um yeah, I guess first and foremost, I mean, tell me a little about yourself. I did some research. Are you Portland or Beaverton, Oregon? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bend originally, which
Yeah.
is Central Oregon, and I live in Beaverton. I live in Tigard, which is the bordering town of Beaverton. So Nike's in Beaverton, but
Yeah.
it's a lot easier just to say Portland for people who live 3,000 miles away and barely know
Yeah.
anything about Oregon.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so I was saying I did a little bit of research on you. You're like a bit of a homebody. You've been in Oregon for like community college into your undergrad, and then I mean obviously Nike's there, so you haven't moved much, have
Yeah.
you?
No, I've been in Oregon, lived in Oregon. I mean, I haven't really lived anywhere else. So when you kind of look back and think about it like that,
Mm.
yeah, college is here. I've done some traveling with work and things like that, but as far as like an address, it's always been in Oregon.
You've had no reason to leave, huh?
I nothing yet. Nike's kept me around for a while, so I feel like I'm going to ride that train for a little bit. But I've traveled a lot of places in the U.S., which is great. But
Mhm.
still love Oregon.
That's great. I've never been. I have family in California, so West Coast, but I'm from Massachusetts. I'm a little outside of Boston, but
Okay.
you ever make your way over there at all?
I haven't been back east in a while. It's been a while. Um, but yeah, did a little bit of time in Boston, some New York, just some work stuff around there. But
Mhm.
if we leave anywhere from Oregon, it's usually to go down to like Arizona or California just to get out of the rain that
Right.
we've got for like 9 or 10 months out of the year.
Is it? Yeah. What is the weather like in Oregon? Is it cold or no?
It's you can get multiple seasons in a day. Our summers are great. It
Mhm.
doesn't get too humid here, which is nice. But once you get to about October to May, you pretty much got rain 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week. So there is a little bit of seasonal depression that goes on when you get ready
Mhm.
to get to summer. But our summers are great because it's like 80 or 90, 80 something, no humidity,
Right.
outside as much as possible. But it's pretty wet here most of the year.
Yeah. So it's kind of like Seattle,
100%.
right?
It's like
Okay.
Seattle's little brother, essentially, in a lot of the ways that you can think about.
Maybe I gotta swing by. I gotta check it out, but I've never made the trip.
I mean, if nothing else, the Nike campus is worth a visit on its own. A tour around something like that, it's pretty remarkable, just like how big and crazy it is.
Yeah, honestly, you might laugh, but the first time I actually really like saw it was in Drake did a music video. I'm sure you're
Yeah,
aware, but that's when I first saw it. I was like, this place is like insane.
it's wild. I mean, it's like multiple square blocks. The building they just built, the Serena Williams building, is like 1 million square feet. It's the biggest square footage building
Oh
in
my
Oregon.
gosh.
We've got multiple gyms. There's a lake in the middle of it, soccer fields. It's pretty crazy. Obama was there yesterday, I guess.
No way. It's like
Um,
estate's like an understatement.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like a college campus. Like the feel of it, people walk around in backpacks, just like the culture and the vibe is like it's like a college campus. It's humongous. It could take you 10 to 15 minutes to walk across campus.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, maybe I'll have the opportunity. We'll see. Probably not. But
Yeah.
so I was curious. I wanted you to tell me a little bit about your college experiences because you did a little bouncing around. Actually,
Mhm.
I similarly started at University of New Hampshire for a semester.
Okay.
It didn't work out for me, and then I'm now here. But I know you did online for West Virginia.
Mhm.
So yeah, tell me a little about like OSU and the community college and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I originally went to Mount Hood Community College, which is a little small school in Gresham, which is right outside of Portland. Was recruited to play basketball there. So I played basketball for a couple years at Mount Hood. Finished up, just did a third year to kind of catch up on school, and then went to Oregon State for 2 years just to kind of like get a bigger school experience, something
Mhm.
new. I had a bunch of buddies that were there. Did a sports marketing internship, so was like really involved with football team, basketball, volleyball, that stuff. So it was great to kind of get that like college atmosphere, which I didn't get at Mount Hood.
Mhm.
Corvallis is like very much just a college town. You know, I've never been out to Morgantown, but you know, it's kind of that like smaller vibe. Whereas like a University of Oregon's in like a city, this part of that, where Corvallis and Oregon State, like that is what is there. It's a college town. So I did that for a couple years, and then I don't know what kicked in 17 years later, but decided to go back and get my master's. Um, and just was looking for, you know, it was during COVID, married, full-time job. I have a kid. I had another, my son was born during my first semester, which was amazing planning on my part to like have a newborn during all that. But the program was just like a good fit, kind of from the start. And it's just kind of always been on my bucket list to get my master's.
Mhm.
Um, and Nike helped. They have tuition reimbursement, which was super helpful and kind of like giving me the extra push to go through and do all that. And then obviously it's just a good, some extra good things to learn that help me in my job. You know, I won't get promoted anything for having a master's, but there's definitely some things I picked up, just like management skills, and things like that. And if I ever decide to switch careers, it definitely will help.
Wow, that's amazing that you didn't even have any requirement. You solely like did it for your own sake to go back and get your master's.
100%.
That had to feel great.
It was good. I mean, like I said, during COVID, you kind of get in a little bit of a kind of sitting around and thinking about what you're going to do. You
Oh
don't know
yeah,
how long this thing's going to last. So it felt like a good time to do it when we were working from home for like 2.5 years. So there's a lot of downtime in between meetings, and you know, you figure out your schedule pretty good. So felt like a good time. Maybe would have done it earlier, not when I had a newborn and two kids going on, because it made me really busy. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of a, like I said, a bucket list thing that kind of started it off.
that's amazing though. I was just reading because the Applied Human Sciences did an article on you. I'm sure you know, and I was just reading a little bit about it. You were talking about how like juggling all of that with, you know, trying to get your master's. I mean, that had to be exhausting.
It was a lot. I mean, it's funny when you go back to school kind of on your own accord, like how differently I thought about it.
Mhm.
Whereas like when I was in undergrad, it's like I'm hanging out, like I'll get the work done, like probably procrastinate a little bit. Whereas like now going back with a family and a full-time job, like without time management, there's no way I could have done it. So I had very like I made myself very strict on like when I would read, when I would take the quizzes, when I would do the papers, like I had to get on like a routine, because you know you'll figure out someday with kids it's very unpredictable. So I had to find times, whether it's in the morning or at night, Mondays or Fridays, whenever I had meetings. Like I pretty much was on a routine for 2.5 years getting through the program, to be able to get it done.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's awesome though, and it worked out great. So ultimately, definitely worth it now.
Super happy with how everything ended up. Like looking back, it's kind of like I can't believe that I'm done and that I was able
Mhm.
to pull that off. Like in the moment, it seemed like a lot. But it's also, you know, with the program, it's like stuff I was interested in. Whereas like in some of the
Right.
undergrad stuff, you're taking classes just because you're required to take them, where
Yeah.
it made it interesting that I was talking about things I was interested in. The crazy part is in some of the textbooks, actually, they talked about projects or things that I'd actually worked on. So it was like, it just became like this full circle thing. So it just made it like, that makes it easier to like put your time in when you actually are enjoying what you're looking at.
That is insane. There was stuff you have worked on. You're like, okay, I'm familiar. Like,
Yeah, there's I forget which class it was, but they talk about Penn State and how they do their whiteout game, and they do T-shirts, and the student body works with Nike to create those. And I was the one that was on the calls with Penn State and students and briefing those in and kind of like managing that project. Was able to go out to Penn State one year and like go to the whiteout game and all of that. So it was literally describing a job that I had done, and it's like they're talking about me in this book, but it was just wild to like kind of see that come to life.
that really is insane. That you're like, that's almost one of one. That cannot happen to many people.
Yeah. There's a lot of Nike talk in there, which is cool, just being around there. But like that was such a specific thing where like
Right.
I was in that job for 3 years and did that for 3 years. And, there's not many people that have managed that project that was specifically talking about. So yeah, it was pretty wild.
That's pretty funny. Did you ever have Professor Wartella in the master's program or no?
Yeah, I had him 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
And just like really good connection, like good vibe. We still keep in contact. I've actually presented to a couple of his undergrad classes, just kind of like my journey and like what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
I think it's super interesting because if you think about the way the program's set up, it's like very much athletic administration, like facilities, things like that. But there's such like my job is within sports and management, but it's like such a different realm that I think part of it is just like an understanding of like, hey, there's other avenues you can go with this type of thing. So I think some people are kind of like, oh, I never, you hear about Nike, but you're kind of like, oh, how does this like apply? Or like, how could I kind of do that? So, yeah, great guy. We text, on Saturdays as our teams are playing. So yeah, good dude.
Yeah, I was just talking. So he got me in contact with you because we've been reaching out to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Or I guess he didn't like give me like your email or anything like that. But he was like, this guy right here, like shoot him a text, like, or whatever, LinkedIn. I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And he was just telling me on the phone yesterday. He was like, oh no, we were just talking football, like kind of what you were just saying. He was like, we were texting the other day. So let me know how it goes. Like, tell him I say hello. So here I'm giving his regards. But
Absolutely.
he's been very involved. So he's almost like, I wouldn't say running point. I'm not sure if you know Keith Ritchie. He kind of, so I just sat down with him. He's the fan relations manager at the Boston Bruins.
Okay.
And he's a W alumni. And I just spoke with him last week. He's awesome. He's the one that kind of like texted here to tell us to get this going and has really helped, the snowball roll, which has been awesome. But yeah, no, that was funny because I was just talking to him and he was saying, no, like I still keep in contact really well. But
yeah, we were talking through the Oregon State game, and then he went to Penn State. So we were talking about the Penn State game, when West Virginia was playing them, and we just go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can't believe you. So you've never been to Morgantown before?
Huh.
Wow. You got to come for at least one game.
I know the plan is to come out next year. It's just like I wanted to come to graduation, but I was like, I really want to go to a game, and it's just hard to swing a couple trips. So I think the plan is to come out next year. Yeah, I've talked to Ortella about it. Like, I just want to keep in contact, so I have people like that I can actually meet when we get out there. But
right, I mean, I'm sure you're swamped, so I understand. But I mean, this would have been the year if you came to Pitt or something like that.
I know. It's funny. I was at a wedding and met this girl, and she was a Pitt alum, and it was like right after we had beat them, and I was like going in on her, and she was like, all right, like I get it. She went to Oregon as well, so she kind of had this connect, like almost like this opposite rival connection that I had.
Right.
So yeah, I was able to like go in on her because I know last couple of years it hasn't been that way, but it was easier to go at her.
We should have taken them last year too.
Yeah,
we had that, but you would have loved. I'll be honest. Sometimes our stadium, we just don't bring it, and it's quiet. But we striped it out, and it was the loudest I've ever heard it. It was so loud.
Really?
Yeah, it was sold out, and I mean, we're unbelievable. We were booing their marching band. Like there was no respect. Everyone was like, throwing the bird up and all this. It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, I mean, we get that Oregon State gets that same way. Like it is no love lost. Like throughout the entire year. And then like, I won't go to games at Oregon when we're playing there. Like I've had enough experiences. It's not worth it. I can sit on the couch and watch. Like, I don't need to get into arguments with grown men just like me. Like,
I know it's like, I do love it. And that's why, like, of course we both love sports, but it gets hostile. And the blue lot, so I realize you don't know what that is, but that's the one right in front of the stadium, right near the hospital. That's like where we
Okay.
tailgate most of the time.
Okay.
But yeah, like fights break out, and if you're wearing pit, it's really a bad idea. Like you should not put it on. People are crazy here.
That I'm all about it. Maybe that's the game I got to come out to in a couple years when they come back or figure that
I
one out.
think,
But yeah, the
yeah,
plan is next year to come out to a game for sure.
yes, you definitely have to schedule it. I was fortunate enough to go down to Penn State too. Like a bunch of my buddies went down to that game, and that stadium's insane. I know you know that, but
Yeah,
that
it's
place.
wild. I mean, I've been to a handful of games, national championships, things like that. Like that Penn State game is the whole atmosphere is just like something completely different in sports. Like I know SEC is crazy, but like I always tell people, I'm like, you have to go to Penn State at some point. Like whiteout game is great, obviously, but like you just gotta go. I heard it's like becomes like the third biggest city in Pennsylvania on game days with people that tailgate and everything. Like it's wild.
That's a crazy statistic. There was like when we went, it was one of the highest attendances like ever. I think it was 106,000 people or something like that. And you felt it when you're in there, and it
Yeah.
was they whited out because it was prime time. So it's
Mhm.
literally a whiteout. And then occasionally you'd see like groups of yellow like
Yep.
around the stadium it was. And it was awesome. We kind of put up a fight too. We could have taken it down.
I know that. Yeah, that's just a tough place to play. Like especially when it's prime time like that and they get in on it. Like
I
it's a
know.
big time advantage.
And like Big 12 football now isn't what it used to be. Like, so even hanging with those guys is impressive.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, just I don't want to get into the whole conference realignment thing because that completely screwed over Oregon State. But yeah, it's going to be interesting the next few years.
Yeah. So you're okay. So you're a big Oregon State fan. You
Yep.
can't stand Oregon regardless of growing up there.
Nope. Don't like anything about Oregon. My wife went there. Like I
No
don't.
way. No.
Yeah, like she'll put my kids in Oregon stuff, and I'm like, I can't eat like
Take that off.
doing today. Like I'm not
Yeah,
doing
that's
this. Like, she keeps like, they might go to Oregon. I'm like, then they can pay themselves. They can have a free ride to Oregon State or anywhere else in the country. But it's kind of just a little joke. But yeah, you won't see me in any Oregon stuff.
they're not getting a college tour at Oregon, are they?
No, they're not. I don't even own very many green things. Like that's how much it's like.
Wow. You don't even like hearing the name.
No, you got to finish it. It's like you're not even finishing. Like you say Oregon,
Right.
I'm like, go ahead and finish what you're trying to say.
That's too funny. That's too funny. I
Yeah.
have a question because
Yeah.
okay, you were all online at West Virginia. But did you utilize any like resources or opportunities even being online? Because the sport management program here is one of the reasons I came here. I already did some research previously, and I was like, this is the place I want to be. But I was curious of being online, if you were restricted from certain like opportunities and resources because you're not here, but also like, did you take advantage of any? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing I used a ton was like the writing lab. Like that was something that like I would submit my papers into there and like, just I haven't written papers in 17 years, dude. So it's like, I don't know, punctuations change, all that kind of stuff. So I think just like things like that, where I'm like, I need to like retrain my brain to go to school and like read and take quizzes and like kind of get back in this groove. So things like that. I think the cool thing about online is like at the time is everyone's doing it. So you get like these discussion boards and like the way that you can interact with people became like super personal. And, we would do videos. So you'd get to see who people are. And then the way that it rolls through, you'd be like, oh, like I saw you and, I had you last class and things like that. Like there's still people that I text that I had in like my first class, like 2.5 years ago. Like we still stay in contact from it. So I think just like going all in, if you're talking about resources, is like embracing the fact that like, hey, I'm online. I don't know anybody. I'm people living all over the country. Like I'm not trying to do this alone. And everyone just has like super cool backgrounds. I think that was the thing that surprised me the most is like, as you do intro videos, it's like people have every possible job you could think of. And so just like kind of figuring out like what people have done, where they want to go. So the networking and just like learning about people, I think is probably the biggest like resource I used. Cause you want to read what other people are writing. Like it gets you involved, with the class by like creating relationships with people is something that I found useful.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I'm like have a hard time putting that in perspective. I'm on campus all the time. And like a lot of people now, you still can take a lot of online classes here. I choose not to. I'm more of like visual learner. I'd rather be there. Do you think you would have done it any other way, or you kind of like? It seems like you enjoyed your experience online.
Yeah, I think where I'm at in my life, I don't know that I could have done it a different way. I think just like having the freedom to be able to like do it the way that and the time that I needed to do it. There's videos and there's all these things that you can watch that help you in the class, and you can kind of pick and choose like what helps you learn everything the best. But as far as like going into a school setting, like I think it could have been cool to do that, but like I think it would have been too strict on my time and not like flexible enough to be like, okay, this morning I have a meeting, so like when I would normally read, I got to jump on this call versus like being able to just do it whenever. So yeah, and again, I don't know any different. I haven't been in a classroom in almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So it definitely took some learning of like how to navigate all that, right? Because you don't really have your teacher like that you can pop up and ask something real quick, and everyone's on different time zones, so you can't just like hit somebody on the shoulder and be like, hey, did you hear what he said, type of thing. So you got to kind of like figure out how to navigate all that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't even have someone to like bump and did you hear that? Because I missed it.
Yeah,
That's okay. Yeah, I haven't even thought about that. But I see everything happens for a reason. It all worked out just fine.
it's all good, dude. I mean, again, it was the perfect way, the way the classes are set up, like one class every 8 weeks, two in a semester. Like, again, I don't know that I would have had the time to do multiple classes at once. So everything, just the way that their classes and it rolls through. I took a break. I took a semester off when my son was born, and then had like rolled back through. Like everyone was great about understanding. Like, yeah, this is like for working people and people that have lives outside of this. So it just all kind of like really worked out.
That's really awesome though. So I'm glad it worked out for you, really.
Yeah, I'm
Um
stoked on
okay, I have a random question, not really relevant too much, but who are your sports teams, like professional sports teams because of Oregon? Are you all like California or how does that work?
it. Blazers. So
Right.
uh,
Right.
I'm a Blazer fan. I think obviously all the Dame news going
I was
on
gonna
is,
say I wasn't gonna mention that. I was gonna let it
it's like obviously I want Dame to be here. Like he's best Blazer that ever, happened to this city. He's great, but
100%.
like they didn't help him and he deserves to win. And so I'm like, hey, at least he got a chance to go and win. Like I hope he does. I'm not bitter about it. The Blazers are going to be terrible. So it's just kind of like going into the next few years, knowing that you're going to be bad is hard, but it's been a rough go.
What are we
And then,
doing throwing them into our conference though? I'm Celtics. Now you're putting them with the best of the best. What's that
I
about?
mean, hey, Celtics could have thrown some guys our way. We could have taken it, but I
I,
was happy. I think it's better than anything Miami could have put together.
I don't know why we didn't. I mean, listen, I love Tatum and I love our team, but Tatum really pisses me off more than anybody. I think he's selfish sometimes, and he's good friends with Dame. So I was like, okay, get him
Yeah.
involved, keep Brown or something, and we didn't even try.
No, and I mean I think they're gonna be in a tough spot next year because they're gonna have to sign Tatum or let him go. So your window is super closing right now.
Oh, I know. And like every year, us in Milwaukee fight for the 1 and 2 spot every year. And now you're telling me Damian Lillard going there? That's terrifying.
Dude, he is. I don't know how much people get to watch him on the East Coast and some of that kind of stuff, but he's a killer, dude. Like he is.
Not real.
It's crazy. Some of the game winners he's hit and like some of these like streaks he goes on is crazy.
I mean, he's not on Steph Curry's level, but he's right there because he can shoot everything he can shoot. He's quick. He gets his respect. I think I don't
Yeah,
see anyone who like disrespects him. Everyone knows where he stands.
totally. And people like him. Like I think around the league, he's
Yeah.
respected. So yeah, I mean, I hope he wins. It just sucks because we weren't good with him the last few years. So it's hard to see somebody like that that's done so much for like your team in the city and wants to be there because a lot of people don't want to come to Portland. Like it's
Right.
super small market. There's not a lot of like diversity and culture within the city. It's shitty weather. Sorry, my language, but you're not getting a lot of guys who are like, I could go to New York or Miami or somewhere like that. I'm going to go to Portland, so
Right.
kind of take
My
what we
thing
can
is like I want Dame to win so bad, but now I can't even root for him because he's
get. Yep.
like if we get out, he's got it. But now I can't. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even want him to yet. I want us to, and then if we don't, whatever, he can prevail.
Yeah, I'm with you. Sorry, I have to go against you, but
Fair, it's fair.
I like Boston. I mean, Tatum's a Jordan guy, right? So like, I've worked with him, worked on his products. So like, I definitely want him to win as well. It'll be crazy. Those games are going to be wild regardless.
Insane. They're going to be that series because it's going to happen. It always happens. We play them whatever first is around. It'll be wild.
Yeah.
So you've worked with Tatum in the past, I'm sure.
Yeah, currently. So he's a Jordan guy. Worked on all of his like promo plans, what he's going to wear on court. So anything that's not something that's sold in stores that he wears, like all his player exclusive shoes, comes through our team.
Right.
I build out the calendar, so like we're kind of dictate when he's going to wear what. So I'm actually doing that like right now, is like what he's going to wear in the first half of the season this year, which games, what shoes. So yeah, he's like a big part of the Jordan brand in the basketball group right now.
Oh yeah, he's a big face for sure. But wait, so I want to go back to that. I mean, I knew this, but you have to tell him what to wear when as part of like his contract, right?
It's not so much, a little bit. So basically the way that we do it, right, is he's got, say, 5 shoes in a season that we're going to sell. They're 5 colors on like the Tatum one. And so basically we need to work through strategically of like, what games is he going to wear those? Because they need to be seen on court. So they say they play the Sixers on ESPN, they play Chicago on ESPN. It's like, we're going to put those games there. Then they might play Orlando on Boston TV network, which isn't that big of a game nationally. So we put player exclusives, whether stories he came up with or like flips of the colors that we sell. And he'll wear those as kind of like these filler shoes to get more energy of like, hey, look at this Tatum one in a different color, like look ways you can use it, and stories that are for Tatum that kind of like give a little more personal look into his life, which, connects him with fans and things like that. So we do that with, I mean, that's kind of what my job is for all of our athletes in Jordan brand. But he's obviously, him and Luka and Zion are like the 3 biggest faces right now.
That's so cool. I always like, you can think about it, but like I knew he had to wear certain things when, but that makes more sense when you elaborate and say like, right, if it's on ESPN, you want what just came out, or right, what he's trying to push.
Yeah, we got to sell 100,000 units of this colorway in the next 3 months. Like, put it on as many primetime games so you have people see it. He posts about it. There's a lot of ways to like pull those levers of how people see it. But I build out like a monthly calendar and look at their whole schedule, and it's like, okay, who are they playing in the primetime games? What channel is it on? What time is it going to be? Is it home or away? Like all that stuff determines what he wears and when.
Wow, that's like fascinating. But what was I gonna say? Oh, I don't know if you can say, how's he doing though? Like, is it like, how's his shoes? Are they getting pushed well? Like, are people buying them? Or I don't know.
Yeah. It does. I mean, it's all out there. It's this Tatum one is sold really, really well. I think, my personal opinion, I kind of like the Tatum 2 look a little bit better. I know that one's not out yet. But
I don't know. I really haven't even looked at his shoes too much. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they've done really well. They're super light. It's probably one of the lightest basketball shoes I've ever seen. And he's super involved in the process, which is great. Some guys you work with and they kind of just like send me whatever, but he is like really involved. His mom's really involved. So it's kind of nice to get that interaction.
That's awesome. I know. I mean, he's a family man, so that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, these pink lemonade ones are cool. I'm looking.
Yeah.
Those ones are pretty sweet.
Yeah, those came out. Those sold through like super quick.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, so we've got, some of these stories that it helps because then we can tell these stories year after year. If lemonade resonates with people, it's like his favorite summer drink. You can do pink lemonade, you can do regular lemonade, you can do strawberry lemonade. Like, you can kind of like tell these stories over and over again. He's got like his Taco J shoes we did a couple years ago. There's all these like deep stories that come with everything. Everything has a purpose. We don't just do colors just to do them, whether it's a story that sells or a story that is just a player exclusive.
Wow, I didn't know that. Is that why they're pink lemonade?
Yeah, so lemonade's his favorite drink, and so this is just kind of like a spin off of that, and cool colorway.
That is cool. I didn't know that, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, this thing. So this Zoom does this, like, it's gonna cut me off in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I I might call you back on the Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't know why it does this. It's super weird. I thought I had premium like through the school, but it might cut me off.
You're good. Just send it back through. We're all good. I'm not on any time crunch.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was just gonna ask you, can you elaborate a little bit on what you do at Nike? I know you said, senior product line manager with Jordan, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But like, what exactly do you do like with your team? I know you elaborate a little bit that like you work with the players and that kind of thing, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been at Nike for 13 years, and I've been in the Jordan brand for 4 years now. And as you said, I'm a senior product line manager. So essentially, my job is to be the conduit between the athletes and our business side, and just create promo player exclusives for all of our athletes. So any Jordan brand athlete or Jordan brand sponsored school, any footwear you see on them on field, on court, comes through our team.
Okay.
So we will do athlete meetings. We will work with the business side to figure out what shoes are launching. We'll find sport moments to tie things to. And essentially, I kind of describe it as like a little bit of a point guard. Like I kind of have the information that needs to go to the athletes, to sports marketing, to merchandising, and just kind of figure out how to bubble all that up. And as I said, everything is strategically picked, right? So everything has a point and a purpose. But yeah, day to day is a lot of working through different leagues, the timing of when things are going to deliver, and just making sure that we got a bunch of fire on court and on field.
It sounds awesome, but it sounds exhausting.
It's busy. It's busy. I'm the only one in my role, so I manage all of our sports. So I do promo for every sport. And so there's something 365, right? There's either college or professional. We do WNBA, MLB, NFL, obviously NBA, college basketball, college football. So it's busy. But it's just a cool opportunity. I think the best part is I can pull up Instagram or something like that and see something that we've worked on pulled up. I think Complex Sneakers just posted last week. It was like the best cleats from week 3. And there's like not 8 pairs of Jordan cleats that are in there. So, getting to see your stuff online. Aaron Judge just posted some stuff that we worked on. So it's cool to we get to actually see this stuff come to life, and athletes wear it and people interact with it online. So it's really fun that way.
Yeah, that's so cool. I can tell you're so passionate about it too. Like you must love going to work though.
It's great. I mean, I work on shoes and I work with athletes, and people comment on things, like whether I read all the comments, like good, bad, indifferent. Like I just think it's cool to see what people think. Like we've taken ideas from people's comments online and created shoes for them. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't know that I could pick a different job, just like the access to athletes on a daily basis, and just getting to see your stuff on court, where a national TV game, millions of people, Super Bowl, NBA or MLB All-Star game, stuff like that. Like all that stuff comes through our team. So it's cool to see people interact with that, and the athletes really like it.
So cool. So I'm like just listening, and I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of, there is the business side that comes to it. That's, I think, part of with the degree and things like that, strategically thinking through all this stuff and managing it to make sense, right? Because everyone's got a thought. Like Tatum wants to know what he's wearing, why. The equipment managers will hit us up, things like that. So everything, kind of has a purpose and a why, which I think is where the hard work comes in, and then the payoff and the fun is like, oh yeah, Dak Prescott was on campus and we got to work with him on his fit and talk with him for a little bit. And then he's wearing our stuff on field, on Sunday. And we're like, oh yeah, that's the story he told us about, type of thing. So.
Wow. That's really awesome. Who would you say are the athletes you're closest with? Because you're talking to so many, I'm curious.
Yeah. Probably the one I'm most closest with is Manny Machado. Just like a good relationship. He's super interactive with the brand. He's been there a long time. So, there's a lot of open dialogue and honesty of what's possible. Because a lot of, when you think about these guys telling these stories, they're super personal stories.
Mhm.
And so it's like building up that trust and relationship with them where like they feel comfortable of like, hey, this is about my mom that like passed away, or, whatever something these stories are. So he's one. Probably Devonte Adams is another one. He was one of the first guys that came out to campus that I got to actually meet with in person when I started in my job. So we've got a good relationship. Bobby Wagner's great to work with as well, and he's in Seattle, so he's super close to pop up. Dak's been awesome. Aaron Judge is great. Kia Nurse on the WNBA side is awesome. So yeah, those are probably the ones that we're closest to, or I'm closest to at least.
Those are some big names. Not that I'm surprised. Or what does Nike look for in partnerships with like other organizations? Because like you've already expanded on, there's so many um, different organizations and professional teams, that kind of thing. Like, do people reach out to you guys because you're Nike, or like, do you reach out, or how does that work?
Are you talking like athletes specifically, or like teams, or business?
Like both, but I guess you're working more with athletes, so I guess them. Like, are you going to them? I would think so.
I think on the Jordan side, it's a little bit of both, of us going to them. We obviously want to target people that we want. And I think if you look at the rosters that like Nike and Jordan have, I think you'd look at them and be like, oh yeah, that fits into like the culture of like Jordan and Nike are very, very different, right? Like we sit in the same campus and we work in the same places, but like we are fundamentally different in the consumer that we serve, the athletes that we have, just like the whole vibe and tone of like everything we're doing, right? So a guy that might work for us may not work at Nike, and like vice versa. So there is a little bit of like all of our athletes basically roll up from Nike and Jordan into one person, like our president of sports marketing. So he kind of helps dictate like who should go where. So I think there are certain guys that we'll like go after, and it's like, all right, Nike, like, are you good? Like, you don't want them, like, are they maybe under contract with Nike and we switch the contracts over? But there is kind of a good mix of like, we kind of get to pick and choose. I think Jordan's in such a good spot right now that a lot of people want to be Jordan. So it's just kind of like finding those people that fit in the spots, not only of like with the brand, but also like, what are they going to do for our business? Right. So just because they're a big name doesn't necessarily mean they're going to help us in certain cases. So we always have to find like, okay, if they're going to come on, like we signed Jalen Hurts, like what's the purpose of him signing with Jordan Brand? Does it make sense on paper? Sure. But like, what's he going to do for our business? Right. Like we're going to pay him money. We need to make this back somehow. So long-winded, it's a little bit of both. We kind of get to pick and choose. We do kind of hold hands with Nike on that. And I think colleges is the same way, right? Like every college we have, there's some sort of connection to Jordan Brand to all of our colleges. So it is a little bit of give and take.
Okay, that adds up. That was my guess. But I was thinking like it's such a big name brand that I can see like people obviously want to go there. But like you said, I remember watching the Tiger Woods documentary, and Nike ran at him the second they saw like he was an amateur and grabbed him before like anyone.
Yeah, I mean, and these sneaker wars are real. Like, these guys that come out, like Wembanyama, he was signed at Nike before, but like Zion's a really good example. Like when he came out, he was going to every campus, Adidas, Nike, Puma, Under Armour. Like it's really like recruiting. You got to like pitch them to like, hey, if you come with us, like, there's companies that offer boatloads of money. That's like what some people are looking for. We've lost athletes to that. But there's some people that are looking at Jordan of like, okay, there's like this cachet and there's the swag that comes with being a Jordan athlete, like probably going to get less money, but you're going to make up for it in other ways. So it's a fight to like get these athletes just because we want them and we're Jordan and Nike, like maybe not what they're looking for. Like maybe they're looking for a bag and we just can't like give them what they're looking for at that time. That's happened multiple times.
Okay, that makes sense. That's great. And you just mentioned Jalen Hurts. I love him. I cannot stand Philly. I mean, especially Boston, put two and two together.
Yeah.
But I really do like him. He's like family man, Christian, great dude. I can't hate him.
Yeah. And his whole management team is essentially built of women, which is really unique and cool. So it's just kind of another layer to him. Like he is very thought-provoking. When we met with him, you just kind of like get entranced in what he's saying. But yeah, he's a very like unique and like thoughtful person in what he's doing.
I see that. I honestly see that being the case. Um, okay, I don't mean to. I hopefully I don't seem like I'm rushing, but at
Oh,
2, I have a meeting actually with the Sport Management Alumni Network Council. So like the people that
okay.
help form what we're doing.
Yeah.
Uh, it's a bunch of people like you that just wanted to come together and like help us out. And I'm
Yeah.
basically I got to brief them a little bit on kind of what I gave you. Uh,
Okay.
Also, if you're, I know you're busy, but if you're ever interested in getting involved, feel
Yeah.
free to shoot me an email or I guess you're not me, you could go to Wartella as well. Um, I know you are busy, but if you're ever interested,
I mean,
uh,
send me some info. Like I like being
yeah,
involved. Like it's cool from this far away to like keep the connection. Like that's one thing I don't want to happen is like get this degree and then it's like move on, right? And like have no
right.
connection to it. So this is great. Presenting in classes is great. Like I like being involved and kind of keeping that connection.
Hey, yeah, you're a Mountaineer forever, so that's not going.
Oh, let's go.
I will definitely well, I have one more question to ask you, but
Yeah.
I'll definitely keep you updated. I'll send you the content we use.
Okay.
Um, so I'll probably cut this up a little bit and throw it on our socials, but also we have a YouTube channel now where I'm gonna post it in full.
Okay.
I gotta piece these two together now, but
Yeah. See your editing skills.
so if you like hearing yourself talk, you can watch that.
Yeah.
Um, my only other question, just to wrap it up, was I mean, I'm sure you get this a lot, but what's some advice to like entry level candidates or just us as undergrad, or even like graduates, like anything like that? Advice you may have not touched on, but you did cover a lot, so you don't worry.
Yeah. Maybe I'll say re-say something. I think what's helped me a ton in my career and getting to where I am is networking and building relationships with people. And I think having like thoughtful relationships, right? Where it's like you're really getting to understand who people are and what they are. I mean, I've gotten jobs because of relationships I built with people years ago. I get called out on campus from people that I worked when I worked at the gym. That's the first job I had, was at the front desk at the gym, checking people in, folding
Oh wow.
towels, and going from there. So I think networking and building relationships is a great way to just like put yourself out there, get to know people, and find out what like things really are, right? Like sometimes you read a job description or things like that and you're not really sure what it is, but being able to like lean on somebody of like, hey, I know a dude, Nike, like let me ask him what this is, like if this could be a fit or something, you know.
Mhm.
So building that the network is super huge. I think also I would tell people to like ask for what you want, right? Is like people don't know what you want to do if you won't tell them. And so when I meet with people, if I'm looking for new jobs or something, that like I'm very upfront of like, hey, this is what I'm looking for and why. You know, like they can't know what you want if you don't tell them. So filling out resumes, development plans, all that kind of stuff, just like be forward and like get a plan. This is what I want. Find out who can help you and network with them and be like very forthcoming of like, this is what I want. Like if you want to work for the Celtics, like tell people you want to work for the Celtics. So your name pops up. You always want to be top of mind to people, you know? So I think those are probably two really big things that have helped me along the way. And just kind of like putting yourself out there.
Mhm.
There's a lot of sports opportunities. You know, like I think my job is one that is outside of the realm of what typically people think about going through the program. But there's a lot of brands and different ways to like be involved in sport, which is something that I've always wanted to be a part of.
Well, thank you for that. That's great advice. I was listening when you're speaking. Do you think with networking, it's more who you know or your experiences? Because I think I would have to think it's a mix of both, at least the path that I've been taking, like finding a good happy medium. But I'm curious on your thoughts.
I would lean probably, I think it's both, right? But I think I would lean on it's who you know,
Yeah,
because you always want to have advocates for you. And I think is like going into a job, especially like entry level jobs and things like that. Like most places aren't hiring entry level jobs of people that have already done the job, right?
right.
So you're probably going in with like a lack of experience in some way. So it's being able to like articulate ways that you can kind of fill those gaps, or again, like being honest. Like I feel like if you can say like, hey, I'm really not that great at it, but like I'm really good at these things and here's how I picked up on it. So I feel confident that like I could do this as well. And then the relationship piece and who you know is like people will vouch for you and be
Mhm.
like, I know that you're not like, this is kind of like a weakness in some of these spots, but like you're a great team player. Like people like being around you and I can teach you these things, right? Like you don't always have to be like the most experienced person in the room. I think a lot of times people can make up for a lack of experience with like being somebody that you want to work with.
Mhm.
Like I was kind of joking, this is kind of bad, but it's like you can be an asshole or you can be bad at your job, but you can't be both. Right. So you have to like figure out like where you fit in. You're either like an expert in something or you want to be somebody that people want to work with and be like a really good team player. Hopefully both. But I think that's just like a combination of both things.
Yeah, I've honestly never really thought of it like that. That's why I'm glad it's great that we get to do these things now, and I'm glad I'm not going to be the only one that gets to hear you give this advice, which is good.
One other thing I'll say too is you just never know when you're going to run into people again down the road. And so like keeping a strong, like who you are, what you want to do. Like I talked about, like at Nike, we'll do things you run into people. And it's like, I could have an interaction with somebody in a meeting that's not positive, and 2 years later, they're the hiring manager for a job I want. And they're like, well, I remember you and didn't really love how that went down, So
Right.
always remember that things come full circle and, kind of build that stuff together.
You sound like my father. Honestly, I grew up. I grew
If
up
that's
like
good or bad.
no, good, good. I love my dad. But he always says, don't burn any bridges. And I never really took him seriously younger. But I've taken that to heart, especially like through my faith. I really do believe that, like to not burn any bridges. And you're right, it always does come full circle. You'll like you'll go to a random job, even like here, go to like apply to a little job, someone in your class or an old professor or something like that. It really is a small world. It doesn't matter where you go.
It's super small. And especially when you get into the sports world, it's like the
I get that.
connections that of one team versus another, something that you can get connected to. It is really small, and having those connections is great. And again, be somebody that people want to be around, because again, it's sports, so it's already fun. So you can fill in the gaps of experience everywhere, but be somebody that you want to hang out with. I think someone said somebody you want to be in a foxhole with, something like that. So
Everyone knows everyone.
exactly.
It's like my Greek family. Yeah, everyone knows everyone somehow from all over the world, and it's ridiculous.
Everyone's a cousin, everyone's a second cousin, a brother, an uncle, somebody.
You joke, but I spent my summer in Greece and I bumped into like 8 people that knew my yayin papu or my grandparents.
I believe it.
It's not real. It's not.
It gets smaller the more you get out there, which
Oh yeah.
be a good thing if you navigate it the right way.
I love it because I have no bad blood with anyone. I hold no resentment. I'm the first to forgive. And I think it's great because then you don't have to worry about making up a lie or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. Well, I want to thank you for your time, Skyler. This was awesome. I'm really glad
this is great.
we got to do this.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's humbling to, be involved and have some experiences I can share. So anytime I can help out, or if anyone else has questions along the way, like definitely happy to help as much as I can.
Yeah, definitely. This was awesome. I'm gonna keep you updated. I'll send you a bunch of the stuff. Again, if you ever have any questions about anything, I know you have Wortella, but I'm here as like a second option.
Yeah, for sure.
Second option as a student, a little more insight inside, not out maybe, but
how many of these have you done?
How many what?
How many of these have you done so far?
Oh, you're 2. And the only one in front of you is the guy that helped us out.
I mean, you're really good at this. Like you have a good knack for like working through questions and also like on the fly answering stuff. So I was impressed. You did a really good job.
I appreciate it. I consider myself very personable. I love just meeting new people. It's like my favorite thing ever.
You're good at it. I would keep that up.
Hopefully, hey, it's who you know, right?
That's it. If you take one thing away, it's who you know. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
This was awesome. I hopefully you didn't feel rushed. I'm sorry. I do have to hop on that.
Not at all. No, dude, all good. Happy to do it. I'll do it again if you ask me. So
all right, awesome. Well, you have a great day, Skyler. This was awesome.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Take it easy.